Yeah, it is. So all I want to do is turn the blooming sound down. So right. Oh well. What the hell? I'll just leave that. I'll just leave it. I'll leave it there. What the hell? Okay. I've no idea. I've no idea. I get all these like bing, bing, bing. What is going on? Get a year of get a year of Netflix. I've already got Netflix, you Dean.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that exists as an excuse to watch movies. Good movies, bad movies, we don't care, we will watch them. And also tries to use as an excuse to sort of ask the question whether cinema is fighting a losing battle. Are we all going to give up watching cinema? Are they all going to have to go out of business? Are we all going to be left in our front rooms, in our underwear, watching films? Is that the future? Now, my name is Tosin and I am your host. I'm based up in Coventry in the Midlands. And joining me, you've already heard him once tonight, on the Isle of Wight is Shaun.
Hi, everybody.
How's it going, Shaun?
Yeah, pretty good, really. I've had, it's been quite an interesting week. It's a shame the weather's turned out how it has, but I've managed to catch quite a bit of the cinema, which I'm pleased because I needed to go back. So because mind you, there were slim pickings, weren't there? Really. I mean,
yeah, there were. Because there weren't that many things out of the cinema. I mean, I know that at the moment we're not going to be doing much this week. We're going to be looking at more stuff next week, and we're still thinking that even though we don't watch anything between now and next week, there won't be that much out by then.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly right. Yeah. So I think so. Yeah. So I've seen a few films at the cinema. There's a couple that probably we can just do as also rans, because I think we have a little section of also rans, don't we? Which are just mentionable things. So yeah.
Yeah, that's for those who are new to the show. We have a section of what we call also rans, because we have a couple of rules here, which is that usually if we're going to watch something on Netflix or cinema, it has to be something that you haven't seen before. It has to be something that is a Netflix original, or we'll try and get as many Netflix original on as possible. And the third thing is that if you're watching a TV series, you must have seen the whole series, and that's what we usually do. And things that don't fit those are put into also rants. But Shaun, I know that for you, this is something that you were worried about, because you were seriously worried that you were becoming a bit of a couch potato and you were leaving cinema alone. So you're quite happy to actually get back into the cinema, isn't that? Because you're thinking that you might be playing some part in Netflix winning this war, isn't that right?
I actually was. That's exactly right. So yeah. So I'm pleased. I'm pleased with myself.
So the first thing that's going to come up on our also ran section, it's a film that on the also ran pile. I feel like it's a film that we probably actually consigned this film to the also ran pile before any of us actually watched it.
Yeah. I think you're probably right.
I know that we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago and none of us were that enthusiastic about it. I think I actually remember saying, and I think I said the words that I really hope that there's something else out in the week that this film's out, because I really did not want to be the one to watch it. I didn't want to have to watch it by default because there was nothing else out there.
Well, it'd be interesting for people to guess, but let's just say, we thought Sharon would see this film, but she said she was pretty nonchalant, didn't she? It's not a film I would normally go and see, but because there's like a Chinese student that's over, and she was going on about she was from China, but they must have Downton Abbey out there. So obviously I thought I'd take her on one of those makers. Yeah. So funny enough, I heard about it on the radio today, and it's like huge, isn't it? America, it's like top box office, I think.
Yeah, come on. Downton Abbey was huge. It was huge in America. It was so big that people were actually making appointments to go watch this film. Like, people would have Downton Abbey tea parties where they would actually get together and they'll have the china all out and they'll be getting themselves all ready to watch Downton Abbey. Like, they were making appointments to watch this show on TV. There's even a bit in Iron Man 3 where they joke about how big Downton Abbey was in America. Oh. And I think it's also in places like America and in China, places where they sort of have this almost sort of fantasy idea, like it's a fantasy world of what Britain is like with all the butlers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. it's like nostalgic. Oh, that's how it would have been. You know, we could have had these posh dudes, and the people would have been really nice downstairs. But
it's weird. I think it has to do something with colonialism. I think it actually has to do something with colonialism.
Yeah.
But this is not the place
enough
for
of
that.
that. Enough about that. Yeah, we don't want to talk on that one, do we? I mean,
but enough about what it was that I think or don't think about that. Will you just tell us, Shaun, why is it that this film has ended up on an also ran pile?
Well, I think probably because I mean I certainly want invested in it, and I know people, you know, a lot of people are. So I didn't know. I went into this movie knowing none of the characters. You know, I had no idea. I had the basic premise of what it was about. So really, everybody knows what it's about. So you know, it's just a posh family and a posh house, and you know, with maids and butlers and things. And so I just thought most people would know what this is about, and I think it's one of those films that if you like Downton, you know, people are going to love it. It's going to be obviously but for me, you know, it was okay, but it wasn't really. I didn't think it was. Should we put it this way? It's an also ran because I had no real opinion on it. I was sort of thought, well, you know, it was okay. It was okay, but I can imagine it would appeal, and I think that the Chinese student really liked it. So, but I wasn't. You know, for me, I can't really say much about it because I'm sure if you're dad, you know, the acting was okay, but it was like there was a series used to be on in the 70s called Upstairs Downstairs. So, which was much along the same theme. So so that's why it's an also ran. So I mean, if I would have given it a 2.5, pretty average. You know what I mean? I wasn't that bad with it, but it just seemed like a TV show. So probably, you know, it was a TV show really. I think to attract the silver pound, as they call it. And
was it a bit like, you know, when they would do like one of those TV movies or TV specials of like Only Fools and Horses, where they would like, you know, go on a bus to Brighton or something like that, or something like an episode of Under Buses or something like that?
Well, similar sort of thing, yeah. It's just something like they obviously the royalties visiting, so it's all like panic stations, you know, and they bring their own staff, the sort of royal staff turn up, and then there's a bit of shenanigans, which I suppose is quite amusing, but you know, I don't know. I just found it all a bit contrived, I think. So that's why that one's an also ran, I think. So sorry, folks, if you like Downton. I've got this other film that I saw, which was I went to see it on a Monday night, and I mean I was intrigued by it. It was just called Wolf. I knew nothing about it, nothing at all about it, and basically it's
Actually, Shaun, could I stop you there? Because you told me about the premise of this, and I think it's actually really good. I think it deserves a little bit more than what we can give it here.
Okay, yeah. All right, then. All right, yeah. We'll save this one for next week then, yeah. I mean,
yeah, because the way this thing is made and the way you talk about it and where it actually links in and what the filmmakers have done, I think it's actually interesting. And there's some stuff we push into next week, and I think it'll be good for that.
Wolf next week, that's what it is.
We'll save that for when Sharon's back in the room next
room.
week. Oh, good Lord, Sharon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, I forgot about saying Sharon. Sharon isn't around this week. I know that because Superfan Nina has pulled me up on this. Sometimes when we recorded the show when Sharon isn't around. So Sharon is a gardener. Sharon is a gardener, as you might have known if you listen to this show regularly. And she can't be around tonight because work has hit them. Like, they had to call off all the work yesterday because of rain, and now they're going to do this. But she's been taking some really, really good shots of life as a gardener. And they're really, really good. Don't you think so, Shaun?
They are, yeah. It's some nice shots.
So yes, Sharon cannot be with us today because she is busy recovering from that. I think she's only just sort of managed to get home and go, oh my God, I can't quite do this because she's doing that. But I think some of these shots that I'm going to be, that she's been taking, I'm going to put these up on Twitter. I think I'm going to put them on our Twitter page because they are really, 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 actually really nice shots that she does of butterflies and things like that and of a garden and all. But
yes.
On the also rans thing, I just wanted to say something because my wife is like, you know, she's like a pop culture black hole. It's like if you name something that you should have seen, she hasn't seen it. So this week we were going through Netflix and we chanced upon My Best Friend's Wedding, which is a quite good film. I mean, as rom-coms go, it's one of the really, really, really good ones. And one of the things, I think I said this on our Twitter as well, one of the things that I find that is really, really cool is when you watch an old film and you get to see a star be in this film before they become massive. And this actually happened in my best friend's wedding as we were watching it.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
Okay.
we saw, so in there, and for instance, you're watching it at the beginning when they're showing the names of people in the film. You're like, oh, Rachel Griffiths, she was in this film. Carrie Preston. Now these are two people who they're mostly on TV, but I absolutely love them. And I'm like, what? They were in this film. I don't remember them. But if you remember my best friend's wedding at all, they play Cameron Diaz's cousins who are from the South. One of them gets her tongue stuck to an ice sculpture of the day, but never mind. But the one that really got me is Paul Giamatti.
Really?
Wow.
What's yeah?
There's a scene where
oh, wow.
Julia Roberts has just sat down in a hotel lobby or hotel corridor, and she just sat down there on a cigarette. And then this guy just walks by, and he just sort of asks for a cigarette. And it's Paul Giamatti, and I'm like, oh my god, look at that. I bet you like there's some actor who's watching that going, well, everybody has to start from somewhere. Paul Giamatti was a bellhop in a Julia Roberts film, and now look at him.
Yeah. Oh wow. There you go. Yeah, because he's obviously gone from strength to strength.
I mean, the guy is awesome. He's like your go-to character actor. But anyway, let's move on to the actual rounds. Enough of our also rounds. We're going to talk about the actual rounds of what we're going to be talking about. So the first film we're going to talk about is a film that I think you have seen and Sharon has seen as well. And this is a film that I haven't got to see because I'm not too sure whether I want to see it or not. But this is Rambo Last Blood.
Yeah, Rambo Last Blood. Yeah, we saw it together, funnily enough. And funnily enough, the Chinese one that I took to see Downton Abbey, because we got the Meerkat codes as well, she came along to watch it too. So, but I was a little bit concerned that, she might be a bit thrown, because I thought it would have been a 15, but it's an 18 certificate. So,
yeah, because I mean that's the thing. I mean, it's going to be that doesn't surprise me that it's an 18 because it's Rambo, and I know that these things have just been getting more and more violent as the things have gone along, and Stallone seems to just want to keep pushing that envelope and pushing that thing out there. But Shaun, this is a Rambo movie, so I think already know what the storyline is going to be. Is it pretty much Rambo's in a place, some people show up, some people decide, oh yeah, we're going to get him. He gets annoyed at them, and then Rambo goes around, he kills them all, then he walks off into the sunset. The end.
Pretty much, I guess. That's the standard trope for Rambo movies. Yeah. Well, I think there tries to be. It's like he's starts off with him on his ranch, and he's got a niece that says, oh, I want to look up my father, down in Mexico. I want to go down to Mexico. And he's more or less said no. But of course, she's a teenager, isn't she? So she goes. I mean, what you're going to do as a teenager, right? Now, if that had been me, Rambo, but I mean, that's part of the thing, but if that had been me, Rambo, I said, yeah, sure, but I'm going to come with you. You know what I mean? If that had been my niece or daughter or whatever, I'd have said, well, that's fine, we can do that, but I'm coming with you. But of course, he says, no, you're not going. That wasn't a very good Stallone voice, by the way. No, impossible, it's horrible. Well, it's bad down there, So, but she takes off anyway. She's got a mate down there who knows where her dad is, so she goes down there. She gets caught up in some nasty stuff. He goes down there to sort it out. It gets sort of hurt a little bit like he normally does, and then there's a saving angel, that comes and patches him up, and then he decides to go down there and sort it out, and something not very nice happens, which I think upset Sharon, and then he just decides he goes back down there, kills a few of them, but then he goes back to his ranch, this ranch that he's built tunnels and all sorts of stuff through. So yeah, basically it's just a kill 'em fest, So that's basically it. But done, it's quite gory and quite graphic, and there's a lot of blood and nasty things and traps. He sets all them traps like you see with the big spikes on that flip up and pipes through heads and all sorts of nasty things, big explosions, and yeah, so it's a Rambo film with with a cherry on top, I guess, if you like that sort of thing.
Now, this is interesting because I remember watching Taken, and I like Taken. I think it's a really, really good film. But I remember watching it and thinking that someone's just come up with an acceptable excuse for Liam Neeson to walk around Paris killing every single immigrant he finds. And I've heard a little bit, is this one a little bit like that, but with Mexicans? I've heard some people actually describe this film as a bit of a Trump fantasy.
That's I guess so.
So as we've said, Sharon couldn't be here tonight, but Sharon watched this film with you. She was actually in the cinema with you and she watched it.
Yeah.
She felt so strongly about this that she felt that she needed to write in a review. She had to write something in.
Yeah, let's hear Sharon's review because I'd like to hear this, and then I can give mine, can't I?
And yeah, so it says this. As it looks like I won't be able to make the podcast tomorrow, here's my review of Rambo Last Blood. In this film, we see John Rambo living a quiet life on a secluded ranch in Arizona. He spends his days in working with horses, his evenings on building a network of tunnels under the ranch. He has companionship with his housekeeper and her niece, who he sees as his own adopted daughter/niece. Things take a turn when his niece goes across the border to Mexico to track down her absentee father. Horrors ensue, and Rambo for one last time takes up his bow, blade, and arsenal to enact revenge. Sounds simple enough, but for me, the execution, if you'll excuse the turn of phrase, left me feeling deeply uncomfortable. I couldn't see it as anything but exploitative and distasteful. In particular, the sexual exploitation and abuse of young girls and women being used as a device to provide the man an excuse to enact bloody and sadistic revenge. There was no attempt to seek justice for the outrages committed, nor any attempt to stop it continuing, just the use of violence against largely faceless, dumb henchmen as some sort of vigilante tit-for-tat. I could go on, but I don't want to be too specific about certain scenes. A dissatisfying, distasteful film. I grudgingly give it 1 star.
Oh my goodness me! Wow, I knew she didn't like it because her face. I could just tell. That
God, Sharon went in.
Yeah, no, she really didn't like this. I think.
Grudgingly give it 1 star.
A 1 star. Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow. What about that? What about that? Yeah, that's pretty damning. That's pretty damning, isn't it? That's pretty damning.
Okay. But Sean, what did you think?
Okay, here's what I think. Obviously, I like the action movies, don't I? So, I was more than happy with the action. I did have like my issues, like I do have with it. One was
like that was totally unrealistic. Or why would you do that?
Well, not so much make it, but why would you do that? As I say, and the first one is why didn't you go down with your daughter or your niece in the first place? That really cheesed me off because they should know what teenagers are like. Oh, bye. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Bye. What are you going to do? You're going to go down there, right? So I thought, and then I think he would have been. They'd made sure that he was dead the first time. Do you know what I mean? I got that thing, haven't I, where that you just do that double tap like in Zombieland. Make sure. You've got to make sure because if there's any chance of a survival, something's bad's going to happen. But what I did like, and I know the bit that Sharon probably didn't like, is the thing that happened. And it wasn't very nice what happened to his niece. It wasn't very nice at all. But I think for me, obviously, that's the sort of thing that would have happened. So what I mean is, I don't really want to give away any spoilers, but that's the sort of thing that would have happened. It wasn't like death. It wasn't like that stupid, pathetic Bruce Willis Death Wish film where everything's really nice at the end and she come out of a coma, look, nothing happened to her, she's fine and all that. So that bit for me was pretty cool. Yeah, so I hated Death Wish for people who like that one. That was absolute awful film. So that's the Bruce Willis one, by the way. The original one was good, but the Bruce Willis one totally fell on it.
We've got about 1 minute.
Oh, wait, okay. So I shall give it purely for the action side of it and the gore. I'm going to give it a 3 star. I'll give it a 3 star. All right. So it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it like Sharon, but I did have those issues with it. So it's a 3 star for me.
It's a bit sad because I feel like out of all the 80s action heroes that are coming back and making a comeback, it seems to me like Stallone is the one who just doesn't want the 80s to end. He just wants to go back there. He loved it.
Yeah. Well,
like that was the best time of his life. It was like, oh my God, I love that.
Well, the credits at the end, were showing from the first films. So there was like a little montage of scenes from the first 3 films. All the other 3 films that are Rambo films. So yeah, I think it's tough and yet I think. You see, Stallone, I think, has got the makings of a good actor. I've liked him in some movies.
Yeah, he's actually a really good actor.
He can. He is a good actor. I really liked him in a film called Copland.
Yeah, he was really good in Copland.
Yeah.
He held his own against De Niro.
And there's a couple of other things. I can't put my finger on it, but he's quite a good little little actor. You know, he's got some talent. He's not just a meathead.
Yeah, I think it's actually really interesting what the sort of 80s sort of like muscle men have done ever since then. I mean, Arnie, since he's come back, he's made some really, really interesting decisions as to things that he's ended up acting in. And if you look at Jean-Claude Van Damme, the guy is in pretty much a full-blown parody of what it is. But Stallone seems to be like, I'm 72 and I can still kick the ass of a 25-year-old.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it probably is a bit like that. I guess. But bless him. You know, it was all right. I mean, I didn't dislike it, and I did quite enjoy some of the you know, blood and guts, because I think that's how it would be. You know, I know it's terrible, isn't it? Really, people say, "Oh, how can you watch that?" You know, with people getting limbs severed, and you know.
Well, if you're going to watch an action movie, that's kind of par for the course. You're going to expect a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I guess it's... But the thing is with Stallone, I think that he's made a specific point of making these things bloodier. I remember I didn't watch the last Rambo movie because beforehand he was talking about how, well, nowadays we have to compete with the Saw movies. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
I don't think you have to compete with the Saw movies at all, but you just had this feeling that he is invested in making them bloody.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, Tosin, as you know, this probably goes back to my most favourite film ever with the Wild Bunch, because that was a really bloody shootout, couple of really bloody shootouts in that. So probably being in my young formative years, it probably, you know, that's why because I don't know, for me it gives it a little bit of realism, you know what I mean, and the silly little, because I mean they can do some serious damage, you know, some of these things, can't they?
It's really about how it's shown, or about how much of it you show. Like, I mean, you talk about Peck and Pan, the Wild Bunch. I mean, if you look at them, there's a way that that's shown as opposed to like the gore, and when you show you like a nice close up of like, you know, a severed limb or something like that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I can see it is. Yeah, I mean, Sharon's exactly right. I guess when I thinking about it now and listening to her review, it probably is very. You know, it is exploitative, really. You know, let's have the gore and the blood for the blood and gore sake, rather than any particular, you know, reason. So yeah.
And even there's a film we're going to be talking about later where I think it's really, really about the way it is shown, as opposed to what it's saying.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm going to change tact a little bit, and I'm going to go change to what we actually said we're going to do.
Okay.
And we're going to go to the film that you've watched, and you said that you watched this film called Wolf Creek.
Wolf Creek, I did,
I think that this is a film that was released a couple of years ago, and it was an Australian movie. It made a bit of a splash, and it was kind of like, you know, a sort of Australian slasher horror movie, or an Australian take on an American genre. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Slasher. No, actually, I suppose... Yeah, I mean, there's slashy bits in it, but I don't suppose you could call it a slasher movie because, you know, there's not like the hidden menace. So this is actually the menace is there. You know, there's no prowler picking off people. So yeah, Australian movie out in the outback. There's 3 young people and they're visiting landmarks Australia, and there's this place called Wolf Creek. It's like a meteorite crater, and they go out there, and the car, you know, they break down like you would in a place like that. You know what I mean? Oh no, come on, sir. Someone turns up, says, "Oh, I can fix it for you." Blah blah blah. They say, "When else?" He goes, "Do you want to give you a lift into town?" They get a bit funny with him, and he's saying, "What you trying to say?" and all that. But obviously, you probably know straight away, this guy. There's something not right about this guy. And then it goes into, you know, he sort of captures them and does some nasty things to them, and it's. I mean, the film, it was... I would say this film was strictly for horror, you know, fans that like the Saw franchise, or like, you know, like... So this is bloody, and in another way, you know, it's like...
Yeah, that fits with everything I've heard about this film, which is why I have not watched it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. That's quite, you know, whereas Rambo did it for... a lot. This is more like just purely for torturing people, you know. So there's all these nasty ways of torturing people, and then saying, "Oh, you know," and then being nice to them, and then going back on it. And so yeah, so basically it's a torture film. So, but I mean, if you love those sort of movies, if you're into your, you know, whatever those type of films are, your Friday the 13th and all those slashery type picks, you would you'd really like it. There's a lot of swearing in it as well. So obviously the Australian. You know, with the Australians, you can imagine Australians. They're not the most polite of people, are they?
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's Australians. I mean, I'm not sure whether is it racist if you say this, but I mean, having met a lot of Australians, it's fair to say that they do swear a lot.
They do, yeah, and there's a considerable amount of swearing in this movie. So, but yeah, I think it's quite. To me, it's quite well acted. I mean, you know, sometimes some of these films, and I'm sure I'll tell you. Oh yeah, I've just thought of something. I reckon that there's a film coming out which you'll definitely see. I mean, I shall see it probably in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to that review because just from the trailers of it. Do you want to know what it is, or do you want me to save that?
No, go ahead. Say what it is.
Oh, Gemini Man. So, have you seen the trailer for that?
Yeah, I've seen the trailer. Trailer.
Okay, but so that'd be good. Sorry, I digressed again, like I do. But anyway, back to this. Yeah, I'm in one of my fasty moods. You know,
come on, Sean. That is your way.
It is. Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, I guess you could say this is an Australian. You know, you got some. I've seen some nice Australian films. Picnic at Hanging Rock, The Last Wave. I would say this is probably, what would you say? A slasher version of Picnic at Hanging Rock, maybe. So, you know, yeah, I mean, the scenery is quite foreboding, you know, it's quite remote, it's quite, the scenery is quite good, so I guess the cinematography's pretty good. And then you've got the slashy, torture-y, blood, swearing. So, I mean, if you're into that sort of, I sound like I'm like a real gore lover, don't I? I mean, at the moment. So, but
come on, Sean. One of the biggest things in life is to truly know yourself.
I do. I pride myself on that. Yeah, I do like. I wouldn't say gore, but I like, you know, action movies and things to be action movies. But yeah, I see this is 2005, isn't it? So it's quite old. I'm assuming it had a cinema release, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it did.
It did have a cinema release, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it was one of these films that came out. I remember it made a massive splash when it came out, and it might just be the fact that, like, you know, it's an Australian movie, as I said, an Australian take on an American genre, because you have this happen every now and then where there might be a genre that has been done to death by the Americans, and then the Australians come and do something to it, and everybody goes, "Oh wow, look at this! It's new, it's amazing!" A bit like, you know, the Babadook. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Babadook, I mean, when that came out, everybody raved about it, and it was a bit kind of like an American genre that the Australians just put their take on it. And once they put that take on it, it kind of comes across as fresh, and it makes it look like, oh my word, we've come up with something totally different. So after all that, how many stars would you give it?
After everything, probably a 3. Again, I'll give that another 3. Be consistent with that, I'll give that a 3, yeah. Yeah, nice cinematography, but nothing like, you know, it wasn't like, yeah, it was okay, it was good, it was worth a watch. So it's worth a watch if you like that sort of thing. I would say it is particularly for fans of that genre. Do you know what I mean? So bear in mind, if you are going to watch it, there's some pretty nasty stuff that goes on. It's pretty bloody, a lot of violence, a hell of a lot of swearing. So, you know, it's that type of movie. So for me, it was okay. 3-star.
Okay, and now we come to the film that I was talking about earlier when I was talking about a film that it's all about the way that it's filmed as opposed to what it is saying. I mean, like, the way that this film is filmed makes a big thing. And that film is Hustlers.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with this because this was one that I nearly watched, yeah.
So this is a film that is based on an article that was written in New York Magazine. And the article is called The Hustlers at Scores, Scores being a strip club. And this is a film that is all about a bunch of strippers who worked in Manhattan and worked there, and a lot of their clientele were, so, you know, people from Manhattan, Wall Street type guys. And these are the kind of people who would come in and would regularly blow like $100,000 in one night. And it focuses on this group of people, this group of strippers, and they have kind of like a peripheral group of people, and then the sort of credit crunch happens when everything crashed in 2008, and a lot of people on Wall Street lost their jobs and all that. And usually, you know, when you talk about the credit crunch, you talk about these people up at that level, the people in Wall Street, what happened, how they made it happen, how they lost their jobs. But it talks about these women who were affected by this, sort of like almost as a ground level. So they decide that they've got to do something to like make money, and they decide that the way they're going to do this is they're going to go out there, they're going to go fishing for men, meet men in bars and all that. Then they drug them, they take them back to the strip club, and then they max out their credit cards. So, so that's what happens. They max out the credit cards, and what happens is that the people, it's not until they actually get back home, until they get back, and like a month later, they check their statements, and then realize what's up with all this money, and that's when they actually realize that something's happened to them.
How do they get to know? Do they get him to put in his number first or something, or what?
No. Usually, by the time they actually get there, the guy's already drugged.
Oh, right, okay. Well, yeah. That's okay. Cool.
And the film, I've been talking a lot about how I like the way that this film is filmed. And I remember watching this film, when I started it, I was like, knowing the stories. And by the way, I would recommend to watch the film before you read the article that it's based on, because I did it the other way around, and I'm kind of like regretting that I did it that way. It was hard to just take the film on its merits because I'd already read the article and didn't quite know. Well, I kind of knew what was coming.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Story-wise, it's your basic crime story. So, you start off with a crime, get into it. It goes really, really happy for a while, then it goes down. A bit like your Goodfellas or Wall Street or Wolf of Wall Street.
What was the movie with the students that robbed the art thing? I always forget that one. That's a good one.
American Animals.
American Animals, that's it. American Animals. That's yeah.
Now, this is a film that I'm actually really, really happy was directed by a woman, because I think if this was directed by a man, it would have gone bad. I mean, it would still have been a good film, but it would probably just have gone exploitative. Because let's be honest, strippers have not been well served in cinema history. I mean, strippers are they're usually the background to a police officer who is trying to find a lead on his case.
Yeah. That's a place where they all go. That's where they get their info.
Because the opening scene of this film, knowing the storyline of it, I expected that it's going to start one of two ways. You're going to start off in a domestic situation that leads this woman into crime, or you're going to start off in the middle of a strip club, and it's all going to be about the decadence, the decadence of the whole strip club thing, and you're going to have an image probably of a naked silhouette of a woman with dollar bills raining all around her, just trying to show you how seedy this thing is, and how it's essentially about the men using the women, and how all that you're having is all about what the men can get from this whole thing. And the way it starts in a very, very interesting way, because it manages to sort of combine those two things. So it starts off with Constance Wu, who plays a character called Destiny, who is new to this whole thing, and it's all about her. You start off with her just looking in the mirror backstage, and there's all these strippers getting ready, and they're all getting ready to go out of stage. They have this tracking shot that follows them as they go out, and as they go from the backstage out on there, and what you realize is that this thing, it's a job. It's something that these women have to do, that for one reason or another, they've come to the point where they have been like, this is what I need to do to actually get by. This is what I need to do to actually make money. And it's just shot in such a way. And when I talk about the fact that it's directed by a woman, it's like the things that she's worried about, the things that she's focused on are different. I mean, the fact is if it was shot by a man, I find it hard to not to believe that you just have been focusing, and it would have been just sort of leery, that the camera would have been inviting you to just sort of leer at this woman and be like, oh yes, you can almost imagine sitting there watching them, people sort of rubbing their thighs and going, oh yeah, woman. And this film just really, really isn't that. And also, I mean, then when you actually finally do get to the stripping, I love the way this thing is shot, because J.Lo, she plays Ramona, and the film ends up being really about the relationship between Destiny and Ramona. It's all about these women and how they actually go about doing this thing and building what in their heads is a business. But when you first see Jennifer Lopez, she's actually coming in and she's doing a dance number, a striptease number, and this is one of the great character introductions in cinema history. I mean, honestly, I'm telling you that the woman is, and they do something that's very, how it is in John Wick movies, that they shoot it in such a way to make you really, really aware that is Keanu Reeves doing this. That is not a body double. That is not a stuntman. That is Keanu Reeves punching these people. That's Keanu Reeves pulling off all these stunts. And I think that they do something very similar with Jennifer Lopez in that scene, so that you are left with no absolutely no doubt that that is Jennifer Lopez doing that. That is Jennifer Lopez working that pole. That is Jennifer Lopez doing it. And the way it's done is such a way, it's filmed in such a way that it shows you that she is in control. I actually think that this whole scene, that whole sequence where she's introduced, where Ramona is introduced, it's going to be studied. I think it's going to be studied as to how do you get something across. So you go from even films that are made about like, you know, strippers and all that. Like I think the infamous one is Striptease with Demi Moore. Like even when you see the striptease things, it's still about what the man wants. But in this one, this whole thing, that whole scene, that when she's first introduced, it's about what she wants. And you can see that every single thing that those men do, she controls it. She is the one who does, okay, I'm going to do this now, and then you're going to go crazy like a bunch of, and you're going to throw money at me and all that kind of crazy stuff. There is a bit in the original article where they say that this woman has the waist to hip ratio that has been known to affect some men like a drug. And this scene is like a potted example of what that line was saying. I think it's so impressive.
Have you got a secret crush, Toes?
What?
Have you got a little secret crush on J.Lo?
Oh, I think it's fair to say that most of the world has a secret crush on J.Lo. That's no secret.
Oh, right, okay.
I'll tell you what she's more of, though. She is like my inspiration now because everybody keeps talking about the fact that she's 50 at the moment. And I'm looking and going, oh my God, if she can do that at 50, I need to look after myself. I have no excuse by the time I get to 50. I still need to be able to do stuff because what she does in that scene is just really, really, really impressive. And the fact that, but what gets me is the fact that you see that she's in control, and this is just totally from the woman's perspective. How she's like, okay, almost like this is a transaction, and this is how I'm going to make you do certain things now. And it kind of goes on in the later in the film. It's almost sort of like, I guess it's the potted bit of the film in microcosm, because later on it's all about what these men are going to walk around thinking that they're getting stuff from the women, but it's about what the women are going to take from them.
Oh wow.
And it's great to see how good Jennifer Lopez is, because I've loved her ever since Out of Sight, but she hasn't always got the best roles. And I know people have been talking about her about getting an Oscar, but I think it's a really good performance, but probably not that good to get an Oscar, but it's a really good performance.
So how many stars then? How many stars?
Oh, 4 stars. 4 stars, easy.
Oh, right, okay, full. That sounds a bit like that film P I spoke about the other week. To me, that sort of thing. P. You remember I spoke about that Thai film P? That sounds a bit like that, because the women are in charge, and although it's like a sleazy place, the women are controlling events. So yeah. Oh right, okay. So,
well, yeah, it's, as I said, it's a really, really interesting film. It's really good. The storyline is quite straightforward, and I think it's really about the way it's shot. As I said, I'm so happy that this was directed by a woman. It could have gone really, really bad. And I think it's a kind of film that with any hope, in 10 years' time, people won't necessarily see it as special, because the storyline is quite straightforward. It's quite straightforward. It's just about the way it's filmed now, and I think the way it's filmed is just so different from what we've seen before, which is why there's a lot of buzz about this film. But I'm hopeful that in a while, the way women see things, or the way this actually comes across from a woman's point of view, is not something that will be making headlines. I think it will just be normal. But anyway, that's enough for that.
Okay,
we need to move on.
That's enough on that one.
And now, up against Hustlers in round 2 of Netflix Cinema this week is a show that you started watching last week. You were talking about it last week, Sharon. You were saying you'd been watching this show and you didn't see why everybody was making such a rave about it, because you were not particularly that enamored with Peaky Blinders Season 1. And you said that you might not even make it all the way too, but from what it says, it sounds like you actually made it to the end of the season.
I did finish watching Season 1, and I'm in part to season 2. So... Not that I.
So it looks like you ended up actually liking. Did it improve?
I mean, they're okay, but I think what can I say? That to me, the story sort of repeats itself. So the situations that are there. Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, that's a dangerous situation. You might get killed. Oh, that's resolved. Oh, well, let's do this. Oh, you're going to walk into a situation where you might get killed. Oh, no, you don't get killed. Let's walk into this. Oh, we got a situation. You might get killed. No. So, I mean, it's okay. And the acting's, okay. But I must admit that we've spoken before about Cillian Murphy. I'm not a major fan of his. But I quite like him in this. I think this is probably one of his better roles. He does give me an air of, like, fearlessness, confidence. I guess everybody knows the story. It's sort of after these guys have come back from the First World War, obviously totally different people. So, because of the things they've experienced, and you've got some people that are really traumatized. So I think most people have liked it, and most people really, really like it. And I liked some of the episodes, and I liked the acting, but I found it a little bit repetitive. I found it a bit like a soap opera,
So you're saying that each season was repetitive, or was this all within one season?
In one season. Yeah, well, it's just that, well, when I say repetitive, I mean, it's just the situations. He puts himself in peril, and then, you think, oh, right, okay. Or there are times when he puts himself in peril and something happens, this, I don't know, you call it luck, or just people, or just because he's fearlessness. I don't know. I'm not saying it's bad, Toes. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, I think it's a little bit samey, shall we say. It's a little bit samey. So that's what it was for me. So each episode I watched it, they were different, and there was some interesting stuff. But also, there's a couple of episodes which I think were predictable as well. So, or from me. But I know it's loved. I know it's highly, highly prized and highly, highly loved in major circles.
Yeah, it's one of the big prizes for the BBC, even in America.
Have you seen it?
No.
No.
But the thing is massive. I live in the Midlands near Birmingham, and even last weekend they had this massive Peaky Blinders festivals.
Yeah, well,
all over the world, people are actually really watching this thing.
Yeah, well, it's huge. I was listening. Funnily enough, the writer. I was listening to, I think it was the World at One or something. It might have been this morning. It was on Radio 4, and they were talking because this guy, the writer that wrote this, he's just been given a contract with Apple Pay or Apple. They're going to be Apple movies or whatever, and he's written a whole new story about sort of the year, like 500 and something years in the future, where everybody's gone blind. And anyway, but that's what he's written on. But he said it's purely on. This has put Birmingham. This series has put Birmingham on the map in like a America, because in the USA, they knew London, they knew Liverpool, probably Manchester, but now Birmingham, like the second biggest city in England, has been put on the map by this episode. And they said it's because it's really popular, I think, in America and probably other places as well. I'm sure it must be, because they're making another series. I didn't realise originally it was BBC. And then obviously the later episodes, I expect they're going to probably get more money poured into them. So I don't know whether.
Yeah, but it's a bit like Black Mirror. We just finished doing a Black Mirror special. We've just finished recording that.
We did. Yeah.
And you can see with that, as the seasons went on and Netflix came on board, you can see that they got more money because the stars started getting bigger.
Yeah. That's it.
And I think the same thing happens with Peaky Blinders. Like, I think the first one is BBC, then when it gets bigger and then BBC America get involved, and they probably get another thing coming in, and then you start seeing the stars getting bigger. Like they have Tom Hardy, who shows up at some point. I know he shows up in season 2, and even in later ones, they have a bit where the Americans come to Birmingham, which I always thought was like a funny idea. And you have Adrian Brody, who shows up.
Yeah.
And it's so, yeah.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, perhaps it's a bit like that. It's it's a similar type of thing, situation, peril, and then so on. Yeah.
So how many stars would you give the first season of Peaky Blinders?
3 stars.
3 stars.
3 stars. Yeah, because it's okay. You know what I mean? It's watchable. It's not unwatchable, but it's not like, oh wow. It's not one of my oh wow ones. It's just, yeah, it's all right. It's okay. But it's very similar. And I started watching. I thought I'd better finish watching so I'd have something to review. But I'm probably not going to carry on with much more. Or I probably will, but I won't do it like in a binge watch, if you know what I mean. So I might watch the odd episode there and then, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to there's some things like when they're on TV, like Game of Thrones or whatever. Oh, can't wait for the next one. This not really doesn't do it, Possibly, yeah. We'll see. So, yeah, 3 stars.
All right, cool. So, thanks for that. And so now we're going to carry on to our third round. And this is us going back into the film world, and we're going to be watching a film that is, and this is a film that you saw, and it is based on a graphic novel. And anybody who listens to this podcast to know for a while that I love me some graphic novels. And this is a film that has a little bit of similarities to the other film we spoke about, Hustlers.
I think
it's all
so,
about
yeah.
women trying to make their way in a man's world. And I think it has a lot of similarities to a film that was released last year, or a film I actually really quite loved. And that was Widows.
I never managed to catch Widows. I mean, I wanted to, but it was just like I never managed to make it. But yeah. I mean, I know the story because Widows was a TV program in the 70s, probably.
Yeah. That was right, the Linda LaPlante TV program. So yeah, that was remade by it was moved to America, directed by a British guy, Steve McQueen. But this film we're talking about is The Kitchen, and this stars. So it's about three women whose husbands are in the Irish mob, and then their husbands end up in jail, so they actually end up having to take their husbands' places.
Yeah.
It stars Melissa McCarthy, Tiffany Haddish, and Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
First things first, kick-ass cast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good cast. Yeah.
So tell me about it, Shaun.
Okay. So yeah, it's basically three wives. They come together. You're exactly right. Similar to Widows. You know, they're mobster husbands. They've gone to jail. And so they decide they're going to take over Hell's Kitchen, which is an area of New York. So yeah, and they do this, and you know they sort of. They've got, let's say, so it's like a protection racket, but they got a more caring role, and they actually they do stuff, so they become a little bit more respected, shall we say? But then they have a they have a bit of a falling out, and there's some odd things here and there that go wrong. But basically, that's what it is. These women, they take over an area, and then their husbands are going to get out of prison early. Are they going to be happy? Are they not? You know. Tom Hardy's in this.
Is he?
Which is quite funny. Tom Hardy.
Really?
Yeah. Tom Hardy's in this, which is where they have to go and have a conference with. He plays a Jewish mafia guy. You've got like the Jewish mafia there, and he's like the top man. So, I mean, I really liked that scene. And funnily enough, I think going back to Peaky Blinders, it looks like he's in. Perhaps I'm getting confused. No, they do go and see it, but it might not be. They do go and see the Jewish mafia, but that might not be Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy might be the guy in the second episode of Peaky Blinders. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I know Tom Hardy is definitely in Peaky Blinders season 2.
Yeah, so this isn't... And
I would be really surprised if they had Tom Hardy in this film. They would have made a big deal about that.
Yeah. No, it's not Tom. I'm getting confused. Because I think that in the second series of Tom Hardy looks really, really... Well, he's great and everything. But yeah, no, it's not Tom Hardy, but it is a Jewish mafia guy. And they're saying... because they want to sort of move into the Brooklyn area or wherever, you know, or Manhattan area or wherever the Jewish. So there's a scene there. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I got that confused. So I'm right on that bit. So yeah, it's just funny because we spoke about it. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, let's go to the actress. Like you say, it's a great cast, really, really great cast. I mean, and I know, I'll tell you what, Toes, I really like Melissa McCarthy, you know. I think she can act. Well,
yeah, Melissa McCarthy's also.
I've liked her in a lot. And I remember I've caught her with some other things, and I think there's a film where she works in a restaurant or something. It's just a name. It's a name. I can't remember what it is. But it's, yeah, and also the other actresses. What were they? Who were the other actresses?
Tiffany Haddish and Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah. So Elizabeth Moss, I think. Well, all three of them are good, really. To be fair, the men in the film are pretty much your mob standard. Well, I can't because that'll be being racist and stereotypical. But yeah, you know, your typical sort of mobsters. You know what I mean?
You mean you've seen these characters before?
Yeah, you've seen the characters. You've
seen them in many a Martin Scorsese movie.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen. You know, so yeah. So the acting's I must say is really good. I wouldn't say this is
I mean, a lot of the things I've heard about this film, they talk about the fact that it's got a great premise, it's got a great cast, but it ends up being a bit slow. That's wasted. It's a bit slow. I
wouldn't really say it was slow. It sort of towards the end, it's like it sort of started to become but I wouldn't say it was incredibly slow. It was, I didn't find it boring, or I wasn't like crossing my legs and thinking, oh come on, well, not World War Z. So no, I didn't really think it was slow. It was okay, and the acting, I really liked the acting, but at the end it sort of let itself down a little bit. That's my personal opinion on it, I think, really.
Well, that's like your pet hate. Does it go a bit Hollywood?
Yeah, it's sort of, no, it's just how things pan out, it's just how things pan out. And, I was trying to, that's the film, I am cheating, I'm having a look now on the thing, I'm looking at, and it was a film called Tammy. It was a film called Tammy, which was really, really good. And so I remember that. So she was good in that. And she's been good in a few things, to be fair. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, but I know that you and
again.
Sharon loved it. Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Can You Ever Forgive Me? Oh yeah, that was a recent one, wasn't it? I liked that one too. That's the one with the.
Yeah, that's the one that she got Oscar nominated and everything for.
Yeah, that was good.
So how many stars would you give The Kitchen?
3 stars. I give it 3 stars. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought it was all right. But it's not, it's not like anything new. Again, it's not like anything out of the ordinary. It's pretty much Widows, the one you saw, Hustlers, and all those Oceans 12 or whatever it's called, or the 7 or whatever it was. So yeah, it was these women, and it was good. Yeah, so 3 stars.
It's funny that you should say that, because while I was watching Hustlers, I was actually thinking like, oh, this is like Ocean's 8, but at a low level, ground level, seedy kind of version. But then again, Hustlers is a much better film than Ocean's 8.
Right.
I just need to say that. It's a much better film. But anyway, now we move on to our final thing today, and we go back to Netflix for this. Now, Tiffany Haddish, who we just spoke about in The Kitchen, she has become a big star over the last couple of years. She's like the breakout star. I think she's been on the circuit for a long time. I think she's even done stand-up, which I didn't really realize about. And she's sort of broken out, and it was mainly through a film called Girls Trip a couple of years back. She was like the big breakout star of that. Like, Shaun, did you actually get to see Girls Trip?
No, I didn't get to see it. No, I think you quite enjoyed that one, didn't you?
Yeah, it was actually a really, really good film, because it was quite funny and all that. Sometimes you have a comedy that tries to have friends in it, and you're supposed to believe that they've been friends for 20 years or something like that, and it doesn't quite work. But in Girls Trip, it did work, and Tiffany Haddish was by far the breakout of all the characters in that. She was by far the breakout. I know people were talking about Oscars and all that kind of stuff, but since then, her career has kind of taken off, and she has become this big star. And she has done a TV series on Netflix called They Ready, and this is essentially her trying to give back. So it's all about her going back and saying, the people who I met on my way up, I'm going to remember them. These are people who I feel have not been given their due. For her, it's mostly women in this show. So the whole idea of this show is that it's like 6 stand-up specials, and each one of these women is given 30 minutes to show what they can do in stand-up. They're given 30 minutes to show how great they are, how funny they can be, and all that. And it's a wide variety of women that she brings in there. I know, like, let's see, there's a black woman, there's a Hispanic woman, there's a white woman, there is a gay black woman, and there's a trans woman who's actually shows up on the show. And a lot of them, I think it's actually, a lot of them are actually quite funny. That sounds a little bit sort of like condescending, but what I mean is that sometimes I will find this a lot with Netflix, especially when you sort of put on like a comedy stand-up thing, and you put it on and you're not really sure what you're gonna get. You're like, okay, yeah, everybody raves about this person, but I'm not so sure that they're that funny. I'm really not sure they're funny. But on this one, I think they are actually quite funny. I think there was like Tracy. There was a lady, I can't remember her last name, but firstly was Tracy. The Hispanic lady is called Aida Margarita Rodriguez, and she talks a lot about her crazy upbringing and how that sort of like influences her life. And it's just funny to see, like, or it's to see a good wide variety of women comics, because apparently that's actually a thing. I mean, I don't know anything about it, but apparently it's a thing that they mention, that you can be on the circuit and you see maybe one woman at a comedy club every 4 months, which I guess is a bit of a problem, and it's something that Tiffany Haddish is trying to solve. We address in this series called They Ready. I don't think I've actually said the title of it so far.
Ah, right. Is it like blued or blue or rude? Oh, sorry, it's blued. There's a nice new word. Was it blued? Was it Was it like?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are. Some more than others. I mean, every one of them, it's just stand up. I mean, they swear and everything like that. But there's one particular person. There's a character. Yeah, the trans woman. I think her name is Flame Monroe. And I have to be honest, I found some of the things she just said insulting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much rude. I just thought it was straight up insulting. Some of the things that she says about Hillary Clinton, and I think she says some stuff about Melania Trump, which I personally just thought, ooh, you're only getting away with that because you're a trans woman.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, Shaun, there's some things I can get away with saying.
Right, I'm with you.
Yeah, that you wouldn't be able to get away with saying. I mean, you could say exactly the same stuff that I said, but because I'm black, I would get away with it and you wouldn't. And I think it's a bit like this. There's some stuff where I think you've gone past the point of being funny. You're just now being insulting. But because you've been part of like an oppressed people group, people are letting it slide for a while.
So let me just get this right, Toes, if I can. Are you saying that she's the stand-up, but she plays different characters?
Oh no!
Or are they actually different characters?
It's all different women. It's like there's 6 different women who come out and do a stand-up special for 30 minutes to show what they do. And the funny thing about it is that each one of them, so like it keeps coming because you have this interludes where you see all the women get together for a spa day and they meet up with Tiffany Haddish, and it happens more than once where somebody says like, in this business people always say, I'm going to come back and get you, I'm going to come back and get you, and they never do because they hear a whole bunch of rubbish, and they say, but Tiffany did. Tiffany actually went, she made it, and she came back and she got us. So you can see that it means a lot to this woman to come out there, and as it says, they ready. It's about them showing, yeah, we won this platform, we're ready to take this platform, and we're ready to show that we belong on this platform and that there's no reason why you should sort of like, ignore us, which is, so I really liked it. I think they were all funny. As I said, one person I thought was more insulting than funny, but I honestly think because of who she is, she gets away with it. But anyway, at the end of the day, I thought I enjoyed it mostly, and I would give this entire season 4 out of 5.
Right, okay, cool. 4 out of 5.
Yeah, quite enjoyed it. As I said, I would recommend it. Put it on, enjoy life, but watch out for Flame Monroe. Right.
Right.
So, all that's left to do is to say who has won this week.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was actually really tight. After the first 2 rounds, it was a dead heat. We had a dead heat average score. So it came down to the 3rd round.
Wow.
It came down to the 3rd round, and in the 3rd round, that's where we actually got to see who won this week. And it was a close run thing, but by 0.3 of a point,
wow,
the winner is Netflix.
It's got to be Netflix, yeah. That's got to be Sharon. I am pretty certain that that's the only one Sharon has given.
Oh, you mean
for Rambo? I don't think she's ever.
Oh, you mean that she's ever given 1 star to?
As one, yeah. I can't think of another one. Can you think of another one? She's normally really, really generous. She must have.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think there was a film. There was a film called After that she hated. We did that when you were away, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, she really, really hated that. I'm just having to look through things and see which one she gave that one to. Yeah, I mean, she savaged that film. She was like, she was really, really not impressed with that film After. Oh, good Lord! Now where is it? It was.
All right. Okay.
Film.
Cool.
Yeah, I remember that. She gave it a 2.
She gave it a 2. I was going to say.
Yeah,
oh,
but I think Rambo takes the biscuit. She just had to be harsh on that one. It was just
harsh. Bless her.
Did not like that. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week, where we will definitely be talking about Ad Astra
and Wolf.
And Wolf. Yes, we'll be talking about that. And I will be talking about Fleabag.
Oh, of course you did. Actually, yeah, of course you did. Yeah.
I went to the cinema to see the National Theatre Live thing. I want to talk about that next week because I want to talk about when Sharon's around and we can compare National Theatre things.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, see how those two things, cinema and theatre, are getting together to save themselves in the face of Netflix. But yeah, all that's left to say is goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from Sharon. We'll never forget her.
Yeah, goodbye from Sharon.
All right, thank you so much, guys. See you next week.